Well, hello everybody and welcome back to what is undoubtedly going to be a very quick little update today. I just felt a couple of raindrops and I think I heard thunder off in the distance. But wanted to get out of the basement today. I mean, it's not a very bright sunny day, but I thought it would be nice to show you a couple of things that are going on outside and kind of where the garden sits before we do the full update on Sunday. So I've got a whopping 4 plants in here that still need to find homes. I've got that one basil. The mouse melon's not looking great, but I'm kind of torturing it, so that's intentional. And of course these 2 cabbages still need homes. But otherwise everything else has pretty much been taken care of in there. So let's go look at some of those things. You may recognize the row of cabbages along the back of our front yard garden. I'm not sure, however, that I've shown you this. I finally did get the chard and the kale in there. Chard, kale, all the way across. It's interesting, like with these 2 kale here, they're different colors, but they're the exact same kale. So I guess they started off under different lights, or I'm not quite sure. This chard was almost completely dead yesterday, but a nice deep watering brought that back, so that's good. And then this is the same old pepper row here. Got some good news in the front of the 3 previously barren garden patches. Chox was helping me with some weeding on Monday, I believe it was. And I thought this was completely, barren, other than weeds, right? And she's looking under all those dandelions and thistles, and she's like, "Did you know you've got radishes popping up in here?" So that was a very happy moment for me. And then back in the larger of these 3 patches, it's not showing up very well. Let's try and zoom in. But I've got corn popping up in quite a few of these plantings. So I did try to give it a lot better space this year. You know, there's a couple more in that row, a couple more in that row. In theory, they're planted all the way along this middle row too, but there's nothing coming up till like just about there and then way over there. But at least my corn won't be overcrowded this year, so hopefully I'll get a couple of decent ears out of that. Gonna have to wait and see. The corn has been a bit of a struggle for me, but I didn't exactly take it seriously those first couple years. I mean, cramming a whole packet of corn into the back row of that bunker does not count as taking corn seriously. And then for the most part, this big patch still sits relatively unweeded and unworked. But I did get in 2 short rows of beans the other night. I was out here and the mosquitoes just got to be way too intense for me. So I've got some burgundy bush beans closest to the lawn. And then I've got some slender wax, or the yellow slender wax beans. Next row in. I'm going to do some green beans eventually, and some more peas, and I don't know what else is going to go in there. But I finally got the ahi pineapple into ground. This is, I believe, where the yellow ghost was last year, which actually did produce some peppers for me, so let's hope. And then we have the not a pepper eggplant. That is finally in the ground as well. So that does not leave me a whole lot that I still have to work with. Oh, I guess I blasted over but didn't mention those 2 little sage plants from the styrofoam cup, quite happily finally in soil as well. Which brings us to the bulk of the unfinished business in my garden, which is somehow still more tomato plants. So I counted decent stems in amongst all of these lemon boys, and I think these are Tiny Tims, and these are Tumbling Tom Reds and more lemon boys. I think I've got something like 18, 20 different plants in here that still need to go somewhere. But I'm out of planters, so I have to improvise. I've got these stacks of flower pots, and I'm just going to drill a few holes in the bottom there. I've got this like massive 18-inch long bit, so that's not going to be an issue. And we will use those to plant those tomatoes over in this dandelion forest here, which is kind of on the other side of a house, behind the garage in a box and the poor boy's dead Dakota, a few other things. But we get really decent sun here. So I'm thinking if I do this as a small tomato grove, we'll see if it can actually produce for us or not. I've been kind of thinking about a small greenhouse in this space since we got here, because it gets really, really good morning sun. So if I could use that to start plants, then great. Because let's face it, as much fun as it is to talk about, you know, all of my dungeon gardening endeavors, I'm going to have a much better go at healthy starts if I put them into a proper greenhouse structure. And I do think that is one of the best locations for one, because it's kind of sitting unused anyway. I mean, there's a bunch of bike parts in there right now, as you saw, but those are easy enough to tidy up, and we do after all have a shop that he could work on his bike in, so probably better for the tools if he does anyway. And on that note, the wind's picking up, the rains are coming, and I am out of here. I will see you guys tomorrow.